So thank you everyone again for joining us, and take it away, Shanda, for fundraising.
All right, well, thank you so much for inviting me to present at the roundtable. This is my first roundtable, and I thought it was perfect because what we learned in 2019, this is my first year being KUNM's development director. So there was a lot of learning going on. Can you see this is a full screen, or does this look okay to everybody so far?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay.
Increase your volume.
So
is it possible for you to turn your volume up a little bit?
oh yeah.
Or maybe people who are listening should turn up, we should turn up our own volume.
I think she's kind of quiet though, because other people weren't.
Oh, okay. Maybe if closer to the microphone, or I don't know how that works.
Okay. Is that any better?
Oh, yes, it is actually.
Okay, great. So I just put my contact information here for anyone who has any questions after the presentation or after this roundtable. And I'll try to go through really quickly since we have so many great presenters. My favorite adventure in fundraising this year was we tried a new initiative. I listed only two, and we might only get to one just in case I run out of time. But we did a KUNM Green Giving initiative this year, which is something that we had never done before. And we also, this year, wanted to increase our sustaining member contributions. So we had a specific ask for that, and that'll be towards the later part of this. So what we did with the Green Giving, since it was something we had never done, we came up with, we did the traditional fundraising theme. And for us this year, it was fantastic. We went with the environment. It's on all of our listeners' minds. And here in Albuquerque on Earth Day in 2019, a law was signed in by our mayor, Tim Keller, to ban single-use plastic bags in Bernalillo County. So it was fantastic time to do a tote bag, of course, so that we could support this citywide effort to reduce waste. We asked a phone volunteer actually inquired to see if they could make the design for us. So we had a young gal design the tote bag, which was really great. But so because of this environmental theme that we were going with, we decided to do the KUNM Green Giving Initiative. And what I wanted to look at, since this was something we had never, ever done before, I wanted to make sure that I was amplifying the traditional fundraising efforts, which, you know, for many development directors, it's 2 letters that go out before the fundraising week and then a letter afterwards. Well, we weren't going to do that because we wanted to reduce our use and try something new. So for the timing of the new effort was extremely important because we didn't want to interrupt what we wanted to, at least with this new initiative, come to the place where for the funding that we typically got with three letters. So the timing of how we were going to make sure that was going to happen was crucial. The other thing we wanted to do was track the results for this new effort because it was new. We wanted to make sure that it was going to work and that it was something that we would want to continue to do years to come. So what I did is I met with my team and we came up, we wanted to look at that timing initially, because we knew what we were going to do as far as amplifying the traditional methods of asking for support. So we came up with we wrote our first letter and we prepared that. And then we also prepared our on-air spots to support it, which is very typical. Then we prepared our Green Giving email. And right after that, we also had on-air announcements to support that as well. And then we have our newsletter, which is our monthly newsletter that goes directly to our members. So what we did with that is, So I'm gonna go back to that. Amplify now is our, and I'll read this for the people who are on the phone. The initiative, the Green Giving Initiative to amplify the traditional ways to ask for funding was we got our mailing out in mailboxes 5 weeks before the fundraiser. We scheduled those on-air mail support announcements, and we clearly acknowledged that this was the only letter we were going to send. And this terrified me as a new development director, because I was like, okay, well, traditionally we do 3. I'm going to do 1. So I was really nervous about this. But one of our scripts, and I just pulled this one out as an example, is KUNM is reducing our environmental impact by only sending 1 letter in the mail this year. So when the KUNM envelope arrives in your mailbox, you really need to open it and take action. So we tried to reiterate that we were trying to make the station reduce our use as a station, because most people don't think that a station who broadcasts has a lot of waste, but we do. And it's also costly for the station to write the letters, print the letters, and mail the letters. So I wanted to keep that in mind too. The final end was, thank you for supporting great radio and our efforts to reduce waste, because that's what we wanted to do. So the next letter that we sent out, we sent the Giving Green email 1 week after those letters arrived in mailboxes. So 4 weeks before the fundraiser. There again, we scheduled the Green Giving support announcements to coincide with that delivery of the email. We posted on the KUNM website and social media to kind of enhance visibility, since this was something different we were doing. And then we crafted another article for our monthly newsletter. And the message that we had on air was KUNM is launching the Green Giving Fundraising Initiative to reinvent the way we ask for your support. Traditionally, KUNM spends big bucks and uses lots of paper to send out multiple fundraising letters to your door. With Green Giving, we are reaching out to you by email to ask you to donate. This will increase the support that goes directly to programming you love and decrease the station's environmental impact, meaning less waste in our landfills. So then we ask them, of course, to check their email for this. So like I said, we had never done this before. So I was kind of nervous about how this would work. And I had looked at our history of what the first and second mailings produced. And I was praying to the development gods that we would reach that benchmark. So it worked, and it worked really well. These are just 2 days of mailing that we got. And what's represented on this slide is our membership team holding stacks of mailers that we sent out with that first mailing, the one and only mailing. So the response, and I think this was key, was they're public radio people. They've got the environment and they've got that on their minds, and they have concerns about it and how we can take efforts to, 1, support our city's efforts, and 2, reduce our own waste. It just worked. It just worked for us really well. I know the stacks of mail, it's good to see, but proof is in the pudding. So this is what we did for our tracking. We wanted to track those results to confirm that that this initiative made a difference. So what we tracked was, we tracked against previous years, but we tracked against our traditional mailing response card, and that went to not only our sustainers, but anyone who had given in, the criteria of time that we had selected. So we had, I think we sent out 13,000 letters, that's about right. And then we also, which is fantastic, is we use MailChimp to get our Green Giving and our newsletter out. we were able to track direct click-throughs when people opened them, if they opened them, who said, I don't want to see these. And the response from the Green Giving email, we had a tremendous response of click-throughs directly to our donation page, which was wonderful. So we could track their path. And on this bell curve here, I've got the one thing that we found was really, really exciting for us was that compared to previous years, we widened that bell curve so that we weren't making a sharp turn up to the week of fundraising. We pulled in a record number of donations for a first mailing, and it was just a tremendous response from folks who care about the environment and public radio. So we widened it, which is great. Essentially, as we're going forward for our sustainers, we get an earlier representation of those gifts throughout the next years. So how am I on time? Am I good? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Ursula, you're on mute.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, thank you. We're
Sorry.
time. Thank you for reminding us. She's getting her phone.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. I think I have just a
I guess
handful
I could just
of,
look at the clock, which I can't see that either.
It's quarter after.
It's quarter after? Okay, cool.
okay.
We're at quarter after right now. How are you?
Okay.
Where are you in your presentation, Shanda?
I'm at the end of the Green Giving campaign. The
Okay.
other was just the sustainer increase, but if other people are ready to present, I can yield my time.
What do you think?
Yeah, ask see if there's any questions.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good place to pause then.
Okay,
Thank you, Shanda.
of course.
Does anyone have any questions for Shanda? And remember to unmute the microphone icon in your left corner if you want to talk.
Great information. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, Chandra,
Yes,
did you say that you sent out 13,000 letters initially?
I did.
Okay, wow. And that's your entire membership or everyone that's ever given?
Well, we set the criteria for anyone who hadn't given in the last 5 years for the one-time gifts. And then we always send our sustaining members an email to see if they want a thank you gift for the year. So with that total, that's what we sent out to. Yeah, but we can, depending on, like with the database, you can kind of format how many you want to send out. But since I was only sending one, I decided to cast that net pretty wide.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure folks who hadn't given in a while saw that we were doing something a little different and maybe would come back.
So that first mailing that used paper was 13,000, and then after that you just did the email.
That's
Is
right.
that right?
Yeah, and what was fantastic too is to get that mailing out for my first mailing. I think it cost probably about $4,200 with printing and postage and everything.
Mm-hmm.
For the email to get 9,000 members, $110.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then I'm on the phone, so I couldn't see the visual thing. But out of those 9,000 emails that went, what number of people responded positively?
Oh, I didn't put that in my I should have put that. That's a great question. We had over 23,000 on the web. From
over $23,000 got raised.
Yeah. So
wow,
What,
awesome.
Shanda, why Why the 4 weeks in advance with the mailer? Why such a big lead time?
Well, typically what the previous development director who had this system down like to a T, she would send a big mailing, the first mailing out about 2 months in advance, and then a second mailing 3 months in advance, or I mean, the 1 month in advance, and then we would be hitting it hard with the on-air ask. But for some reason, I think the longer, and I'm also thinking about how emails, if you send an email way too early, it just gets buried. So we were strategic about the time that we sent it, which was always on a Friday, just kind of like how we send our Zounds, and we have a terrific open rate for our Zounds. So we kind of based the timing on sending it on a Friday so people have the weekend to look it over. But the actual timing, I condensed it as well, because normally it was a spread of, 2 months of in between. And I think with doing 5 weeks out, the email and then the newsletter, which reiterated all of the work that we were doing into the fundraiser, which was early September, it just worked out right. I can't confirm or deny that that's the timing we'll have this year, but I think it'll be very similar because it went well.
So like what KMA does is we send out one letter before, about 5 weeks before our fundraiser is going to begin. It's called our silent drive, and that sounds similar to what you do, except then you guys also sent out another mail, like you do an 8-week mailer and then another one at 5 weeks. Is that what you're saying?
That's traditionally how it was happening.
Oh, okay. And we just did that one. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'd love to follow up with the email and really pushing that we're trying to save paper.
Yeah. And it's also a huge cost savings for the station because depending on what service you use, I mean, we all know how much printing and the other thing that I really loved about the email was that I could launch this and know exactly when my members were going to receive it. Like when you're printing and sending it off, you're kind of tracking like, okay, it's going to take a week for printing. It's going to take a week to get it to the curb.
Yeah. And
here I could set it up and then I could even pre-schedule it. And I didn't do it that time. I sent it because I was very excited. But you could preset it to launch whenever you want, so that it's a task off my desk as I'm doing the other planning for the fundraiser, which is really great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And so you've got about 9,000 members that have given you their emails.
Oh yeah, because our online donation form requires that you have an email to make the transaction. So
right.
We do collect that detail.
Okay. Well, thank you, Shanda. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Those big stacks of envelopes returned is very inspiring. For those who didn't have the video, that just huge pictures of just stacks of envelopes. So, and why don't we move on to the next one? John, how do you feel about going next?
Sure, I could do that. I don't have any visuals, just some notes, really.
Okay.
So we had started a capital campaign around the time of our annual meeting in 2017.
John, excuse me just for a minute, just to identify you. John's at WOMR in Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Right, we're on Cape Cod. It's our audience is, there are a lot of retirees on Cape Cod, but there are also some young people as well. I don't think we have nearly as many young people as a lot of your stations might have. So that presents its own challenges. The capital campaign started at our annual meeting in 2017. Took us about 18 months to raise $300,000. During that time, we probably did 4 pledge drives as well. So we did that along with our operating funding at the same time. The capital campaign money came in a lot of that came from listeners. I'd say about 175,000 and the rest of it came from foundations, including a $95,000 grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, which was a great boost for us. But there was also a local Kelly Foundation. There's a local airline that also supported it to the tune of $10,000, and a local community bank as well. At the same time, in that same 2-year period, our reserve fund, or endowment, if you will, grew from $30,000 to $130,000. There were a few reasons for that. We had lost a beloved board member who had left us money, but we also decided to roll out a campaign in which we would match the money that she had given us and name our spoken word studio after her, as she was also a spoken word host. And that money helped to enhance that endowment. And we used 40,000 of that to pay down the principal of our mortgage. I think it was also asked, we had a recent experience on Facebook with Giving Tuesday, where we sent out a newsletter that got, I know, at least one response of $200, possibly 2 other responses. But on the day before Giving Tuesday, we also did a Facebook campaign with Giving Tuesday with a goal of $1,500, which we did raise in 3 days pretty easily. So I can't explain that, but that worked out well. Outside of that, we do have a performance space that we rent out. Last couple of summers, it's been a yoga studio, which has been pretty lucrative. And we also, the auto donation program has been very good to us. We've had some great donations there. And because listeners donate vinyl to us all the time, we decided to open an online vinyl store, which is doing surprisingly well, supporting the operating budget. So that's the overall picture of the last couple of years. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you think I missed something, I'm happy to fill in the blanks.
Does anyone have any questions for John?
So, John, what was the capital campaign raising money for?
We had to upgrade our broadcast equipment, not so much the transmitter, but the 3 studios, on-air production and the talent studio.
Okay.
We also purchased a mobile unit, not a mobile unit, just not a car, but something we could take out into the community and broadcast from events and festivals and things like that.
Right.
Something we haven't had the technology for 10 years now.
So how does your online vinyl store work?
So people bring in donations, and we have a staff member who will assess what's there, and pick. In the early days, he picked quite a bit of it and made he has quite a big stock. But now he's more picky and choosy. The rest of it is offered to the other DJs if they want to take it home. If after a while we can't get rid of it, we take it to the swap shop. There's several of them. And then online at discogs.com, we have our own page where people order online, and our staff member boxes everything up and mails it out, And we've sold maybe, I want to say about 15,000 in 1 year, but there's also expenses against it. I mean, vinyl sales are really good.
Can you put a link to that? Could you put a link to your store in the chat?
Sure, I could do that.
That'd be great.
So with the cost of shipping, does it actually make money?
So you charge the person who's buying pays for shipping.
I see.
So the stock is free. It doesn't cost us anything. It does cost us staff time, but a lot of that can be staffed out to volunteers, really. We charge the buyer for shipping, so they pay for the overhead. I guess we are paying for things like cardboard to ship things.
And how do you promote it?
We promote it on our newsletter, our e-newsletter. We promote it on the air, and there's a link on our website. But I think as a vinyl buyer myself, I just go to Discogs on a daily basis. So I'm assuming a lot of vinyl buyers just stumble into this stuff looking for things that they want to buy.
Are you attached to a university?
No, we're independent,
Okay.
independent community radio station.
Fantastic.
Hey, out of curiosity, in that capital campaign that you netted 300,000, did you have expectations of how much of that would come from local listeners and members, and how much might come from foundations and grants going into it?
We were hoping to hear at least from Mass Cultural Council, because we knew that was going to be our biggest chance. And in fact, the first year I applied for it, they turned us down. So we went at it the second year with, different eyes. And we were successful the second time, but we did assume it would be about a third coming from foundations. I have to get a cord.
Okay.
My battery's running down. Oh, I don't have it.
Does anyone else have any questions, or that if you don't have sound, you could also put in the chat?
I'm happy to put up that link. If my battery runs out, I'll log in my office.
Okay. Okay, let's move on.
Okay. Why don't we go to Sarah next? Sarah from
KZMU.
KZMU. Are you there?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Hi,
Thank
everybody.
you, John, by the way.
Hey.
Let's see, maybe I can get this video thing to work, because that might be fun. There. So hi, video people and phone people. It's really exciting to hear what y'all are talking about. I'm curious to see if what I have to add is actually helpful, because compared to some of what I've heard today, KZMU is tiny. We're a small community radio station in Moab, Utah. You all may know Marty Derlin. She was our manager for a few years and handed over the reins in August of 2018. So I've been the manager here for a year. And we're in a really unique position because we were defunded by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting in 2015 and lost about $90,000 a year. And our operating budget was only $160,000 a year. So, due to several factors, one of them being that we no longer met the threshold, we were defunded. And so we've had a challenge to kind of try to make up that $90,000, but also just try to grow past $150,000, $160,000 a year operating budget. So hearing about mailings to 13,000 people is super inspiring. We currently have a donor base of like 300, which is, sucks, but frankly. But it is what it is, and I'm working with the board to try to get a little more creative with some of the potential income streams that we have. A big one is looking outside of the Moab Valley, and so for any rural stations out there, you probably can feel me when I say that it's very apparent that we've reached the bottom of a lot of our repeat donors' pockets. And a lot of people who support us just aren't able really to give more than they do already. So I don't really see us in a position to start trying to rethink our drives and ask for more, but kind of think a little bit more outside of that. But so the thing I wanted to just kind of touch on today that I've noticed, and I'm also curious if other folks have noticed too, is that in the last 2 or 3 years, especially, we've noticed a big increase in online giving largely through Facebook campaigns, like both station instigated Facebook campaigns, but also staff and volunteer DJs making their own little mini campaigns, especially during our pledge drives. And, everything from raising $700 to $50, and then we get a check from Facebook Network for Good of, however much money. And also the kind of more straightforward non-Facebook and non-PayPal, just credit card, ACH, withdrawals from people's accounts. And that's been wonderful because it makes that gap between pledges and actual paid donations a lot smaller than it's been in the past. But it means that the phone doesn't ring as much during radiothons. And I'm curious if you all have experienced this, but I've noticed it really affect our DJs. And I get a lot of, the first 20 minutes or hour or so of their show, they're psyched and they're pitching with enthusiasm and they're reading off our premium list and they're so happy to be there, and the phone doesn't ring. And by the time their show is over, they're like sulking out of the air booth, feeling really depressed, not knowing that, 30 people have already given to their show before they even went on the air, or they're listening and they're giving online, or they're listening and they're going into we have a booth at the local grocery store during our pledge drive, so people go and give in person, and that's a great way for them to pick up their premium as well. So there's this interesting disconnect between what we're actually putting out over the air and the money that's coming in. And I know from growing up listening to pledge drives that hearing that phone ring is one of the major instigators to get me to call. And so I've considered putting a fake phone or a telephone sound effect, or this last couple pledge drives, we put a little bell in the booth that the DJs were encouraged to just ding whenever they wanted to kind of give that feeling of like a festive, active, kind of bustling environment in the air booth. And it hasn't really taken off, but it's a challenge that we have. And while I'm happy that online giving has increased and really kind of helped us stabilize our radiothons, there's this whole other element that needs to get addressed, in my opinion. I'm curious if other folks have had that happen, or if they've come up with some ways to work around that, or if it's a non-issue.
Hi, Sarah. This is Bear from KMUD.
Hey, Bear.
Hey.
Nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, I wish I had the video thing so I could see everyone, but I'm kind of out in the boonies, so I didn't want to use up my few gigabytes on the thing. But so yeah, that's very interesting what you're saying about the DJ's morale sinking as they pitch away and the phones aren't ringing, even though. So I think faking phone ringing is totally a great thing to do. And the other thing that we've definitely planted in our DJs' minds is, that even if people don't call right then, they're planting the seed, which is really important. And KMUD, I mean, listening to you reminded me that, different drives, we definitely have the phone rigged up so you could hear it ring.
Yeah.
But we haven't done that in a while. I need to talk to someone about bringing that back. Because even if you're just faking the phone ringing, that's okay. Because it's all theater, And if the money's coming in online during a programmer's show, it would be kind of great if someone is keeping an eye on that.
Right.
So thank yous can be being given,
Right. We have.
And I also.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go. What were you going to say? I could ramble on.
Well, I was going to say we have like a one of those like thermometer, keeper tracker thing. Yeah. And every year I do some different illustration. So we've done like I drew a giant chili pepper and it was the red hot money pepper, or Caspar, the fundraising ghost. And it was, so as the donations come in, these illustrations get filled in. And it's also something for the DJs to talk about live, so they could look over and say, oh, the red hot money pepper is still only halfway full. And it kind of includes the listener in on the culture of fundraising up at the station. Yeah. And that has helped. But again, with the increase of online donations, this past year we did a similar thermometer on our homepage of the website. And I'm sure some of y'all stations have been doing that forever, but it was the first time for us, and it made a difference, I think, in the ease of DJs see what was going on. Right. and also for the communities to see too. They're very small steps, but I think that they all add up to changing the culture of the pitch within the station. And KZMU we're kind of in the middle of this big shift in culture anyways, and trying to increase DJ investment and this kind of camaraderie. And so all of these little things kind of add up for that.
Yeah, on that thread, as far as programming and during fund drives, I'm out in the community, the wider towns here in central Vermont, and as the fund drive approaches, someone says, oh, I'm going to call. And I've asked a couple of them to call at a certain time during certain shows where the programmer is convinced that nobody's going to call.
Oh.
And they do call, and you want to see a happy programmer. So there could be a little extra theater thrown in as well.
I like that. Yeah.
Cool.
Planting calls.
Have anything you want to add?
So I have one more question. So during your drives, do you do tabling also to reach people?
We do. Yeah, we have a table in front of the local grocery store every day of the fund drive, and then during the fall, the first Saturday of drive coincides with a local arts festival. So instead of tabling at the grocery store, we table at the art fest, and that usually brings a big chunk in to kick off the drive, because it's also a lot of visiting people that just want some swag and they don't care about being a member.
Right.
So yeah, we do. It's a lot of work on staff to set up and tear down every day, but we found that it's absolutely critical. But again, we're talking about fairly small numbers probably in comparison. Like the table maybe brings in $1,000 on a good day.
Oh, well, for KMUD, that would be a spectacular day if we
Yeah.
brought in $1,000.
Yeah. Well,
and that might include selling merchandise, not just signing up, members.
Yeah.
So we're talking small town stuff. So you said your membership is about 300?
Just about right now. Mm-hmm.
And when you do your drives, do you do a special push to bring in new members? Like have that be a goal also of, we want to reach 50 new members this drive or 30 new members?
That's a good question. We haven't had a specific new member drive. It's mostly, we mostly focus on retaining our existing members. Mm-hmm. But that's a good idea. I think that's probably where we're going to need to be shifting anyways. We're also trying to push the sustaining memberships. So rather than getting folks to just give the pledge amount twice a year, we're trying to encourage people to do the monthly withdrawal.
Right. We're doing all of that, and and sometimes you get a new member, and they're just someone who's passing through, and you never hear from them again. But sometimes they actually stick around, or they've just moved to town, and they become a full-on. Yeah.
Or they tune in online.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate your help.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Why don't we go next to Cynthia and with KVMR. Are you there, Cynthia?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, sorry, I don't have the video capability, so I'll just be on the phone today. But thank you so much for including me, and it's very inspiring to hear everybody's things that they've done. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that we've done in the past year that have been successful for us in regards to premiums mostly. So the first thing that we did, and I'm happy to send you any information if you guys want to see the visuals of what I'm talking about. I'm happy to email them to you all after the call. So the first thing we did as an end of year campaign last year was a pet calendar. And what it was a calendar that was given with every end of year donation of $50 or more. And the campaign started on Giving Tuesday and ran through the end of the year. So the logistics for the pet calendar were that starting in June, we did a call out to the community to solicit them to send in pictures of their pets, everything from an on-air campaign, newsletters, social media, heavily promoted. So from June to August, we collected pets from members that they were sending in. And by the end of August, we had a committee that would go through and select which pictures, because unfortunately we couldn't include everybody, but we did our very best. And then we had a volunteer that created all these illustrations for the calendar part itself, like for celebrity birthdays and holidays and all that. We had a local artist create the artistic illustrations for that. And then we had a couple of volunteers that are incredibly artistic that were responsible for laying out the calendar pages of the pets. So that happened really in September and October. And then by the middle of November, we had the final layout and the production of the calendar. So a couple other collaboration ideas that we did with this was we partnered with a local pet store. So they paid and sponsored the calendar. So they sponsored the production for the print, so it didn't cost us anything to produce the calendars. And then we also collaborated with a local county, Pets in Need. What they do is they supply pet food to families who can't afford to feed their pets. And so for every donation that came into KVMR, not only did they get the pet calendar, but then the pet store would donate 5 pounds of pet food to the Pets in Need Association.
Oh, nice.
So it was a real feel good all around. So that was, a tremendous success. We ended up giving out almost 400 of those calendars at the end of the year. So we decided to do it again this year. Actually, our calendars are scheduled to arrive today, so we're very excited to get them again. But it's a really cool, very unique kind of piece of artwork. And then we have Incredible Pets, who's the pet store that we collaborated with. We have their logo on every page and the illustrations on everything. So it's a really, really cool thing. It went so well that we're doing it again. And then another way that we've been able to use them is, since they don't cost anything to produce, we give gifts to our underwriters every year. And historically, we've given each business supporter a bottle of wine, which cost, a couple $1,000s when all was said and done. And last year, what we did was we gave all of the business supporters the calendar, and they seem to love it. And they've got them, hanging in all of their businesses, so you can see it when you go in. And it's also a little bit promotion for KVMR because they see that it's a KVMR calendar. So it's just been a win-win on many levels.
Do you have a picture of that on your website, Cynthia, for your radio station?
Yes, we do have a picture on the website under the membership tab. And again, if you want me to blast it out after, I can send you this year's. Because I believe everything that's on the website for this year was probably last year's calendar. But I'm happy to send off anything. Yes, they're really adorable.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I saw the calendar at the NFCB conference, and it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, do I have time to talk about the other initiative that we did?
Yeah.
Well, we're at 12:45. What do you think? Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so this just really speaks to the relevance of tying premiums to what's happening. So we're here in Northern California, and so during the month of October, we were experiencing the largest mandatory power shutdown in history. So our local power company rolled out across more than 38 counties in Northern California, which affected over 2 million customers. And those are both, I know, it was crazy. It was insane. 2 million customers, both residents and businesses, that we lost power for 8 days during the month of October. So you think, and it was so apocalyptic. I mean, the first one that happened was 3 days, and it was everything from grocery stores, gas stations. Nobody could get gas for their generators because the gas stations didn't have power. People didn't have money because the ATMs weren't working. I mean, it was catastrophic. However, KVMR being able to stay on the air because the generator supports our studios, but it doesn't support the offices. So we were inundated with phone calls. I mean, you can imagine the phone calls of people calling in and trying to get answers to what's happening. And then the third time it happened toward the end of the month of October, it happened right in the middle of our membership drive. So 3 days without power during our membership drive. So we had decided that we were going to give away these crank radios, a powered that can charge your phones and have flashlights on them. We were going to give that as a thank you gift. And that was before we knew how extreme these power outages were going to be. They were talking about how they were going to be wanting everybody to be prepared for this in case it happened. So we ordered 10. We ordered 10 crank radios to be given. I'm glad you find that humorous because we did too at the end.
We give away like 30 during
10.
a drive-in.
10. Yeah. So we ordered 10 and they were given at the $10 a month level for $120, and then the power went out. And then the power went out during the membership drive. And so we, when all was said and done, sold almost 300 crank radios at the $10 level. So we just couldn't keep them here. You know, we couldn't keep them in stock and get them here quick enough. So we did suspend our membership drive due to the power outage. So our membership drive was suspended, if you will, from Wednesday through Friday. And we were just utilizing the phones to be able to answer calls for the community of all the questions that they had. And I was down there answering phones one day, and I got to tell you that pretty much every third phone call were people still giving us money. I mean, even though we suspended the drive. So the last day of the fund drive was Saturday, October 26th. The power came back on around noon. We had our largest fundraising day of the decade that day. We raised $29,000 in one day from 193 supporters on a Saturday. So it was a circus, to say the least, but in a good way.
So selling the crank radios wasn't possible during the actual, electrical outage. So was this a reaction?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we were still they would call and pledge, and some of them, would be able to come in that day and pick up the crank radios, but they were on back order for like 3 days. Mm-hmm. So people wanted them, but the thing was, even though they couldn't get them in the moment, they knew that there was a chance the following week the power was going to be out again. So it's been a tremendous, tremendous success. And actually, during the last power outage, our generator blew, which was a $45,000 generator. So we did a fundraiser on Black Friday to raise the funds for that. We got a $15,000 match from a donor, which was incredibly helpful. And we did a match to raise the rest of it, a fundraiser to do the rest of it that day. And now those crank radios are at the $15 a month level, supply and demand. And we did it. We made our goal again on Friday. Like, it's a huge, so the relevance of what has happened, that just really speaks to it, kind of like the tote bag that the first presenter talked about. It's like having the relevance to what's going on in the community really has an impact and has been tremendously successful for us.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks, Cynthia. That's really awesome.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
Anyone questions? Yeah.
So, so KMUD gives away these crank radios too. We're due for $130 membership. We get them from Sea Crane. I'm wondering who you get yours from.
I'm not sure where she's getting them from. I'll have to check with my membership coordinator on that, or who she's fulfilling them through.
And what you guys are paying for them and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're paying $30 for each radio that we get.
Oh, my goodness, I know we're not paying that much.
Okay,
but I will find
definitely
out
want to know where, I want to know your connection.
Who is this?
This is Bear from KMUD.
Okay.
Okay, and we had a drive that we did right after the power shut down, and we too were giving away these Sea Crane radios like crazy. Everyone that hadn't gotten one before, or who had gotten one and wanted another one to give to someone.
Yep.
But, so I'll email you and so you can get the
totally
information on that. That'd be
happy to. Sure.
You.
Absolutely.
If there's no other questions, we'll move on to Ursula. Does anyone else have a question for Cynthia? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm at KHOI in Ames, Iowa. I think you can see, for those of you who have video, you can see our logo in the background there. I was relating to the issue a lot of people calling in. We have a interesting, I don't know if we're unique in this, but people in Ames, Iowa do not call in their pledges. They absolutely refuse. And I don't know if it's some sort of aspect of Iowa Nice, or I don't know what it is, but people just will not call us. And so I relate to the, the issue of radio hosts getting dejected, because I know it's always very hard for everybody that they don't get any real feedback. I don't think it would work for us to put a fake phone call in there. I think it would sound good on the air, but I think it would just depress the hosts more to know that none of these calls meant anything. So it's always been a little bit of a diplomatic problem to keep people's morale up. What people do want to do in Ames is they want to come to the station and bring their check. They want to visit. And so a fair number of people walk into the station. We're a storefront. And so a fair number of people actually walk their check in. Again, it's usually not related to the host who's on the air. And so I generally try to encourage people to write on the check, who they're responding to, so at least we can give people that feedback. But this year we tried some new things because we really kind of got run into the ground. We were just a few dollars away from really having to shut the doors. So it was really crucial that we come up with a new strategy. And so basically the strategies employed were, number one, we created a sense of urgency. We did call in we have a local newspaper. We asked them to do a story. And this was very, very hard decision for me to make. I was extremely reluctant to do this, but we did a story on the fact that the station was in danger of closing. And it felt like a huge risk because we didn't want people to feel that we were a sinking ship. But we were lucky. We got a reporter who chose her words very carefully and who happens to like us very much. And she wrote an article that really, really made a huge difference. And we got a big response from that, a positive response. And a lot of people kind of didn't perceive it as us being losers, but as us being transparent. It was kind of framed that way, of sharing with our community, what was happening to us. So that was the first step in the campaign. The second thing was that we did is we made a decision to, so we send out a mailer usually a few days before the on-air fund drive starts. So I was curious why, why so much in advance, whether that would be better. But in any case, so, but with the air, what we did was instead of having our hosts, because it has been feeling very tired, and I think it does have to do with the fact that they don't get the phone calls, and so it becomes kind of an empty process. What we did is we told the radio hosts they were not going to be responsible for pitching, and we created a pitch team. And we said the pitch team will do the pitching, and somebody from the pitch team will sit in on your show and interrupt your show. It's once or twice during the show, and kind of treat you like a celebrity, and ask you why you're doing the show, what this means to you, and kind of feature the host a little bit. And the pitch team was made up of volunteers here at the station. Most of them are radio hosts themselves. They just were interested in doing this, kind of had the temperament for it. And this was received very, very well by everybody. The hosts like being treated as celebrities, or not as celebrities, but as talent, which they are. And they like being able to talk about themselves a little bit, which they usually don't do that much on the air. And the pitchers got better and better at it because they were repeating the experience over and over again. So they really were able to kind of hone their own skills. And it was a very relatable sound on the air. It was much more relatable to hear somebody kind of go, oh, wow, you know, look at who you are, and you're really a talent, and what does this mean to you, and who are you, instead of having that host just ask for money. So it just, from the listeners and from the hosts and also from the pitch team, the general consensus was that this was a better sound and a better way to do it. However, we did not let the radio hosts off the hook, because our problem is that we do have a relatively loyal member base. It's not big. It's about like KZMU, I think, a little bit bigger, but not much, because we're in a little bit of a bigger area. And they're relatively loyal, and usually when we ask once or twice a year, they give, but it's just too small a group. So it does not, it doesn't pay the bills, and it's really clear that we have to get a bigger base. And so the main focus of this fund drive was expressly to bring in new members. And so what we said to the hosts was, you play a big role in this. And we created, we asked them to be advocates. And we made an advocate kit for everybody that is a radio host. And in the kit were a number of things. And it was literally an envelope with a number of cards in it. They were all the same size on cardstock, so they kind of were a nice object to hold. And one of the objects, one of the cards was a spreadsheet or a list of 10 spaces where they could write names of people that they thought they could recruit as members to either close the deal themselves and get a membership, recommend as a high donor to the board and make the introduction, or the third option was that if they didn't want to make the ask, we gave them little cards, which had a pretty picture on the front, and on the back it had a promotional statement from KHOI, and then at the bottom a space for them to write a personal note. And we asked them to write a personal note to whomever and give it back to the people who were doing the mailer, so that we did a focused mailing just for the people, the letters with those cards in it. And we had varied success with the packets. I don't know how your folks are, but generally when we tell people to do something, they do something else. And so we got all sorts of versions of people's responses to this request.
Right.
And the poor person who has to coordinate this is about ready to kill herself by now. We have a bucket here.
She's getting the bucket.
We have this bucket that sits in the main room here at the station, and this is where people are supposed to put their cards. And so she comes in every day, hopefully looking in the bucket. And it's interesting. You know, the biggest problem we have had with that is that we've asked people to tell us who they're going to approach before they do it, so that we avoid a whole lot of duplication. And people apparently just absolutely refuse to do that. They don't want to do that. I don't know why. They want to go off and do it their way. So it's been a little bit, it's been kind of like a little bit of a sociological study, but the real benefit of it has been that it has really prompted a whole lot of one-on-one interactions between everybody at the station. Cynthia? Sorry, we're in the main room here. What it really did, which is very, very beneficial, is it created a buzz, because there were so many one-on-one interactions happening person to person because of this, that it really did create a buzz. And in a town our size, that's actually a significant thing. We're a town of about 60,000 people. Well, 40,000 with 40,000 students. So anyway, so that actually worked really, really well, because the main element was that it created a buzz. The other thing, the other thing we did was, hey guys, we're on a video conference. sorry. The other thing that we're doing that I want to mention that's part of this kit was that we gave them another list to fill out. And this is actually something that Richard Town helped me with, because I'd never heard of anybody doing this, but it's an attempt for us to deal with the fact that nobody calls us. And what we want is to create, we actually still want to try to get people to do that, although I don't know if we'll ever succeed. But what we thought, if we can't get people to call us, we want to try and create the sound on the air that somebody is donating to us on the air, and maybe generate the sense there that you can do stuff over the phone. And so what we did find was very, very easy to do, was for people at the station to go to local business owners and say to them, not ask for a business donation, because that's a whole ball of wax. We can't, that's much more complicated. But we asked the owner of the business if we could call them on the air and ask them to join KHOI as a personal member, not as a, not as a business. And that when they, and this would be prearranged, obviously, so nobody's caught off guard. And then when we called them, they make the donation in the name of their station. There's a script so that we don't get into FCC violations, but they can say, yes, I'm so-and-so, and I'd like to make a donation in the name of my business at so-and-so location. And then we say, that's great, thank you, we really appreciate it. We're very appreciative of all of our local business owners that support community. And if you would like to see who they are, go to our website where we have our donor, our list of business members. And on the website, we can provide more promotional information about their business. That has turned out to be a really, really easy sell because everybody has their favorite business around here and is a regular somewhere. And we've had almost no problem with business owners immediately liking that idea. And we have a relatively conservative business community here, and so it's been really hard to break into business support. And this is actually kind of constituting a first step towards, having businesses, see us as a branding opportunity, and outside of underwriting. And so that's something.
Ursula?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Jerry Schneider. Would you take the same approach could you take the same approach for underwriting?
I'm not sure I understand the question, because it's
well, in other words, you said to go to a business, but instead of actually having the business make a donation, have the person make a donation in the name of a business. Would you be able? Would you do the same thing for underwriting?
I never thought of that, using it that way. Yeah, I don't know. That it seems kind of complicated to me, because underwriting involves a lot of conversation you don't want to have on the air. I guess you could. Okay. I think that one thing that has happened is when people have gone to businesses and asked them to do this, they've gotten an underwriter instead. A business might say, nah, you don't have to do that, but I'll underwrite you, which of course is a bigger win for us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. But what it does, but thinking about it this way, what it does do is it's very hard for us to get our hosts to get underwriters. It's just a little bit more than they can, they won't take that on.
Interesting.
But it is easy for them to go to their favorite business person and say, will you do this for me? And at $100 a pop, most business owners, they're like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. It's nothing to them. And they recognize that they get an opportunity to have their business on the air and their name on our website. And that somehow, connects to the way they think. And so, so these are kind of the different angles we've taken for this fund drive. It has worked. The the advocacy packages have worked, even though not the way we had hoped. It does work because of the buzz it creates. And and the morale has been better at the station because the hosts do not feel that they have to, do all this pitching kind of in a vacuum.
Right.
It is very labor intensive. The pitch team, we've been doing this now for 3 weeks, and the pitch team is tired. And so there is a cost, but people say they enjoy it. They enjoy doing it. And one of the benefits of it too is that the pitch team are hosts themselves, most of them, and they are enjoying meeting the other hosts at the station that they've never met. They really, really enjoy that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Any
Sounds good. I received, by the way, Jerry Schneider with KXCR here in beautiful, rainy Florence, Oregon. I did receive those packets that you sent, and I've modified them. To be very honest with you, I've just plagiarized everything that you sent, and putting our logo on it. And again, I'm very, very grateful. Really do appreciate the opportunity to do this. We are having a sort of all hands on deck meeting tomorrow in the evening, and I plan on presenting your packets and what the things that you propose in terms of having a pitch team. We did try that on a test with my last show, and which seemed, it was very comfortable. It was very easy to do. So we kind of ran a little test on it. And I don't know, what kind of results we got, but we're continuing to do other things. I did, by the way, get an underwriter for my show. A local insurance company here agreed to underwrite my show for 6 months, which I thought was awesome. So, we give them a little tagline before the show, all that kind of stuff. But I'm anxious to give this, to hand out what it is you sent to us and get people involved. I know you did say that there are a lot of people, when we talked on the phone, you said, there are those people that just will not go out and ask for money.
Right.
And I get it. I understand that. Personally, I don't have a problem with it. And people are either going to say no, get lost, or sure, we'll do it, or tell me why I should do this. And that's the fun part about telling them why you should support a real community gem to be able to keep it going. But to be very honest with you, my tact, I think, at our meeting on this Wednesday is going to be just to take a portable radio, turn it on to a non-existing station where there's just flat air, and tell them that this is the sound of KXCR without support. That's it. That's what it'll sound like. Here's what KXR will sound like without you guys going out there and helping us get community support. Because again, like you said, you can ask people to do it, but they'll always find something else to do. So if you can think of another way to really grab somebody's attention, I'm all ears. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. One of the liabilities with this business thing that we're trying out is that it really has a script has to be enforced, because we're kind of working the system legally a little bit with this, and because people are so accustomed to advertising language, they very, very quickly will slip into the host and the business person into advertising language. So you have to really kind of enforce that there's a script to this.
Okay.
We're working the system a little bit with this, but desperate measures.
I had a question for you. We use a lot of challenge grants, and they come in privately, and they also have been provided by business owners to get those phones ringing. It's always nice to have that extra incentive for those people who are just on the threshold of, I want to give, but my $20 or my $5 will make a difference. But if they're matching it or they're doubling it or whatever, that really helps us. And it keeps that, it keeps the the program host happy as well, because they know that they're coming in with a certain set amount that we provided for their show.
Mhm. Well, we actually, our goal for this fund drive was 50,000, and we split it for 25,000 with major gifts, Amanda's a match, and 5,000 membership and mailer. I mean, on air and mailer. The mailer and membership has exceeded the major giving didn't reach 25,000. I think it came to 19 so far. But yes, we do that. You do that. It's a little, with the business community, it's a little bit hard because the business community in Ames is generally very conservative.
Oh, yeah.
And so they don't buy KHOI yet completely as a they really want to support. But what is strong in this town are person-to-person relationships. So if somebody goes to a business and say, we want your business to support the radio station, they'll go, you know, we give a lot everywhere, not this one. But if an individual who's a regular somewhere says, you know, would you support what I'm doing at the station? And the person will say yes based on personal relationships. So that's what we're kind of exploring here.
Absolutely.
We don't get any significant major giving for matches yet from business. It's not a formula. However, just one more thing. We have to, our fund drive doesn't really do enough. So our second shoe dropping will be on Valentine's Day. We'll do a, KHOI is Heart of Iowa, because that's the area of Iowa where that's what it's called here. So we've been calling the fund drive from Heart. And on Valentine's Day, we'll do a fundraising event with a band where you can, you know, either show your love for community or actually bring a date, and we'll kind of make that the other shoe dropping. And we are looking for, we are going to the hospital Heart Center for sponsorship for that. And I think they actually will at the Heart Center. I think the hospital is considering that.
1:15. Does anyone else have anything they want to add? Okay, and then I'll just say thank you to everybody. We had a really nice big group today. It was really cool.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Putting it together, yeah.
Some people have to go to work early. They left a message here. Parker, who in Wisconsin, he's working to create a radio station up in the Northwoods. He says thank you. Lou in Santa Clarita says, love your idea of involving local businesses, very creative. Kendall Boyson from Carbondale, Illinois has to get to work, says thank you also. Thank you from Cynthia and also from John. And I would also like to thank Shanda and John and Cynthia and Sarah and Ursula for all your information today.
And this way, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, I'll have this posted by tomorrow on the web. So anyone who needs to take a second look, or if you've missed one from before, you're welcome to check out the website at Pacifica, and we'll have them uploaded there.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very, very much. Really greatly appreciated.
Thanks,
for joining
everyone.
us.
Yeah, good to
Okay.
see everybody. We'll see you at the next one.
Great.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.